Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. We've got some more prepping and painting on the Mira today. So the idea with the paint job is that I'm going to hang the doors, the bonnet, and then I'm going to paint the whole exterior. But doing that, I won't be able to paint some areas, for example, the scuttle panel and down these pillars here. And it's the same where the tailgate meets the body at the back of the car. So the plan is to paint the scuttle panel and down the side of these pillars here, and also the area around the back of the car where the hatch sits and the lower section down here. So with this scuttle panel painted and this pillar, I'd then be able to hang the doors, and then I'd be able to paint just the insides here with the doors on. So with the tricky area at the back here painted, I'll then be able to mask it off and be able to bolt the boot on and be able to paint the roof section and the boot at the same time, and then I don't have to worry about trying to get into these tricky bits afterwards. So to prepare the primer for the paint, I'll actually be rubbing this down, probably going to be about an 800 grit. These are exposed areas, you will be able to see them. The areas down here though, I haven't even guide coated. All I'm going to do there is I'm just going to clean it up with some scotch, make sure it's properly keyed up, and then I'm ready for paint on that. So this front pillar, if you can imagine it having a wing on there and the door bolted on there, I won't actually be able to get any paint on there at all. So I'm going to paint this ahead of time. This will then be painted, and then what I'll do is a soft edge down here, and then when the door's on, I can then do the door shut and just flick the paint back up this edge here. So I've already prepped the scuttle panel. This is pretty much ready for paint. I don't want to spend too much time here. It does actually have large plastic pieces that fit over, so a lot of this won't be seen, but I do like a bit of thick paint underneath these kind of bits. I think it helps with the protection. So areas like this pillar here are really awkward to prep the primer. What I normally do though is the larger flat areas, I just use a DA. I do use a interference pad there, like a spongy one there, and then what I do is I use a block, and really awkward areas I just use a scotch. So if I do happen to rub through the primer and there is some bare metal, I don't really worry about that. I just squirt a bit of etch primer over those areas, or a decent quality primer. The one I'm using at the moment is got a rust inhibitor, and that seems to work really well on bare metal, so I'll just use that any areas that I actually rub through. So I'll actually be prepping the primer in a dry manner. I won't be wet flatting. If you do decide to wet flat using a bucket of water and some 600 or 800 grit paper, that's great. I mean, it works really well. I've used both in the past, and just on this example, I'll only be using dry flatting. So that's the rear area all prepped up and masked up. And also the front scuttle area and these posts. So at this point, I was pretty much ready to apply some paint, but then I've had a thought. And it's actually the front wings. You see here this edge. You can imagine that once that's bolted on the car, it'll be very difficult to get a nice coat of paint in there. And also around this corner. And if I'm painting with the bonnet on, I'd struggle to get to the top of the wing as well. So what I'm going to do is just prep up these areas around here, and then I'll mask off this outer area, and then I'll just plop a little bit of paint in these areas that are going to be difficult to get to. Maybe a bit just underneath here at the front, and just along the bottom here. Then I can paint the car with the wings bolted on, and I'd be happy to know that there's enough paint right at those edges there that I probably really would struggle to get to otherwise. So I've been prepping the awkward parts of the panel with nothing more than a sanding disc and some scotch. But this isn't actually my preferred method. What I do like to use is something called a soft pad. It has a sandpaper one side and it's like a foam on the other side, and it's really good for going into these awkward areas using something like a sanding disc. It does have a hard edge, and you're more likely to put tram lines into the primer. So I'm kind of using what I've got on this job, which leads me to the masking. So previously I'd done prime work and I've still got the same masking on there. If you are painting large areas or exposed areas, I'd probably recommend remasking the car. The thing is, things like the paper, if you've already sprayed it and the primer's gone dry, it actually does leave dust, and this dust can actually go into your paint. Not only that, it does tend to lift. So you can see there where the masking tape has come away. So sometimes this is a false economy. So to some people watching this video, me painting the area here behind the door and areas like this that live behind a bumper seems like a pretty pointless exercise. But here's the thing, the car wasn't in great condition. It was very scuzzy under these areas. So I thought that if I can make it last a little bit longer just by preserving it, and if that means putting a coat of paint on it, then so be it. So I'm pretty much done for today. I just want to put another coat of clear coat around the rear tailgate area and another one on the front scuttle area. So I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching as always. Cheers!